Today I'm showing you how you can add some natural elements to your Christmas decor to create a warm and cozy and magical feel. I found this beautiful glass box that's got the brass frame on clearance from HomeSense, which is the same as Home Goods. I'm not too crazy about the pattern that's on the bottom, so I'm going to be covering that up with some preserved reindeer moss. I'm also going to be adding these really pretty fairy lights. I needed to attach the battery pack to the bottom, so I'm going to use these sticky Velcro pieces and I'm going to stick that to the bottom of the glass box. That way here I can easily remove it and replace those batteries as needed. So I'll just put that in place, and then I'm going to just set the lights aside for now. Next, I'm going to be using this preserved reindeer moss. Now I got this from Dollar Tree and I did find that it was quite dry, but if you look, there are other varieties of some reindeer moss. You can get the stuff that's more pliable and soft, which makes it way more easier than this stuff, but I knew that I could still use this. And I could place it at the bottom and cover up that pattern that I didn't care for. The wire kept getting in the way, so I'm just going to tape it down, but I'm going to make sure that there's enough slack in the wire for me to be able to remove the battery pack as needed. So I'll just continue to add the moss, and then once I'm happy with the coverage, I am going to then add some of the glycerin preserved reindeer moss, which is what I already talked about. It's way more softer. With projects like this, I love to add different layers. It really creates a lot of depth and interest to something like this. So I'm just going to continue to add the moss, and then you can go ahead and add all your other natural elements. I have this beautiful curled birch bark piece. I put that on top of the battery pack. I have these spruce pine cones, and I have some hemlock branches and some fir pine cones. I also have some lichen covered branches as well. I'm just gonna continue to add all my different elements. Go for a walk and see what you can find in around your neighborhood or even in your yard. That would be great. You can go and look around at trails and see what you can find on the ground. I'm going to have a video linked where I went out and foraged recently and found lots of fun little treasures out in the forest. I'm just going to turn the lights on here now, and I'm going to start to weave those in. So you're going to want to just lift things up and tuck the little wires underneath to hide that wire as best as you can, but you don't want to cover up the lights because you want that magical light to be shining. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue to work on that until I'm happy with how they're placed. But you know what? Even if you're not happy, you can always just move them around because these are on a wire. I'm not going to add all the lights at this point because I needed to add some more elements, but you can see the depth that we're creating by adding all these different layers. So I'm going to add some faux greenery to this. You can use some fresh greenery. Just keep in mind that the fresh greenery will dry out. Another thing you could use too, if you don't have any preserved reindeer moss, you could definitely use some fresh if you can get your hands on that. So I'm just snipping the pieces of the faux greenery down to a more manageable size to tuck those little bits in here and there. You could add some little flowers as well, or I thought a little bird's nest tucked in here would be really pretty, as well as some like little woodland creatures. Anything that you'd like, just really think and use your imagination to create a really pretty, whimsical piece. I decided to add these beautiful glass Christmas baubles. I'm going to be using the matte gold. I really liked how that looked with this piece. It didn't stand out too much, but yet added that Christmassy look that I wanted to create. I thought you could also add some berries or some little jingle bells. That would be really fun too. Now I'm adding some faux snow. You do not have to add faux snow if you do not like that. I just like the look of it. And as you can see, I actually reuse my faux snow. This bag had a lot of little dirty bits in there, but I was okay with that. So I'm just going to sprinkle it here and there, making sure I get some towards the bottom, as you see right here. Again, creating that depth that we are wanting to achieve. So I'm just going to show you how easy it is to access the switch just by removing a few things, mainly my large piece of birch bark. Gonna just turn that switch off for now. And then I'm just gonna also show you here, if you want to close the lid on a piece like this, you want to just test to see if the lid's actually going to close and adjust things as needed. If you can't get a glass box, you could also use a tin. I have done that before. Or you could even use some paper mache boxes, anything that you can get to create a beautiful, whimsical look such as this. I found these wood slices at my local dollar store, and you can see that they already have the hole drilled and a piece of twine, and so you can turn these into some beautiful ornaments. I am going to paint one of them with this early spring green paint. Of course, you can use any color that you love. I just wanted to create something a little bit different, so I am going to paint just inside the line of the bark. You can see me doing right here, and then I am going to allow that to dry. I'm going to be using some Decor matte glue. You can use Mod Podge. Mod Podge is just a brand name. I'm going to be using these pressed flowers and leaves that I had pressed in the summer. Now I have a video on how I did that as well, so I'm going to have that link down in the video description for you. You're going to want to apply a layer of your decoupage glue and then press your flower into place. I couldn't remember which flower I wanted on where, so then I'm like, oh right, I wanted these pretty little leaves on just the plain wood slice, so I'm going to put some glue over top once I press the leaves into place. That will seal it all up. You can use the tip of a knife or something to move things around as needed. I'm just going to continue to add a few more little leaves here and there. And then I'm going to add a pretty little violet that I had pressed. The violets were growing in my yard wild. It was so fun to see that. They had self-seeded themselves. So I'm just going to put that into place, and again, add enough of your decoupage glue to keep it all into place. And then you're going to want to set that aside to dry. So now for the wood slice that I had painted. Again, you're going to give a layer of your glue, and then I am going to be using this beautiful hydrangea flower that I had pressed. Now, I had used these hydrangea flowers before on a glass jar and they ended up fading. I personally am okay with that look, but I'm not sure how that's going to turn out on this piece. This is a darker flower, so maybe it'll be okay. Time will tell, but that's the beauty of using nature, is that you just never know what you're gonna get or how it's gonna turn out. But make sure you get some of that glue underneath the petals and then fully coat that, allow it to dry. And now I'm gonna just put the string back into place. I had decided that I'm just gonna tie a simple knot right at the very top of the wood slice. You'll see me doing that right here, just a simple knot. I found that way here, once I have another knot at the top where I tie the two ends together, I just found that it ended up hanging on the Christmas tree a little bit better. So I'll just do that there, and then you're ready to go. This was really a fun little project, and it was awesome that I was able to use stuff that I grew in my own yard. I foraged these beautiful white pine cones last year, and I allowed them to cure really well because these pine cones, as it turns out, and I found in my last foraging video, they are heavily saturated in sap. So I do recommend allowing these particular pine cones to cure well. I had my gloves on hand just in case there was some sap in this still, and sometimes I get poked by pine cones, but these ones were pretty good. I'm just snipping off the bottom part. I needed a nice spot to work on at the base, and the way it was naturally, it just was not going to work for what I wanted to turn these into. So I did that for all three. Next, I am using this beautiful sturdy branch that I had foraged from a walk on some trails recently. I can't remember the name of the shrub. I need to find out because This wood is so strong and is fantastic for crafting. I'm just snipping the pieces down and I'm trying to get the top and the bottom as flat as possible. And I also am trying to get some branches that are as straight as possible. If you can't find those, then you could maybe use some dowels as a different option if you can't get some nice branches such as these. So now I'm just going to trim them down. I did find that some of them were a little bit too long. And then I am going to add some glue to the branch and I'm going to hold it to the base of the pine cone. And you're going to need to hold it while that glue sets. Otherwise that pine cone is going to fall off. I allowed all of them to set up well. Next, you're going to need 3 different sizes of wood slices. I did get these from my local dollar store, which is called Your Dollar Store with More here in Canada. But I have seen these wood slices online as well as Dollar Tree, and even at Michael's. I'm adding some glue to the bottom of my branch and I'm pressing that into place. Here, I'm just showing you how you want to make sure that the base is nice and flat. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some glue. You do need to be somewhat generous with the glue so that the branch stays secure. My glue is, as you can see, dried, but I didn't like that you could see it. So I'm going to add a little bit of moss using hot glue again. You could add maybe a touch of some faux snow, maybe some dirt. I don't know. Pine cones would be really pretty too, or you can just leave it blank. But that's it. These are such a cute, fun, and festive way to create some inexpensive little mini Christmas trees for your decor. This is a Ponderosa pine cone, and I am going to be taking my decoupage glue and a sponge brush, and I'm going to dab some of that glue on just the tips of the pine cone. And then I am going to be using what's called sugar dust. Sugar dust is a really pretty glitter. It's a finer glitter, and it is from, again, Your Dollar Store with More, but I have seen it in other craft stores. Just check to see where you can find something similar. It is clear in color and it really does look like sugar. So I'm just going to sprinkle that on. You can see I'm working over a container so I can dump the excess back into the container. I'm just continuing to sprinkle as much on as needed. I'm taking my finger to tap it off, and that is it. You've got a beautiful frosted pine cone for your decor, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to be using mine. I have this gorgeous bread bowl that my mom brought back from Mexico for me, and I use it several times for Christmas time. It makes a beautiful vessel for an arrangement. I'm filling it up with this beautiful green Spanish moss. Again, you could use fresh moss from the forest as well. And I'm going to be layering some branches again that I had foraged, and that was just the lichen covered branch and then my hemlock covered branches, hemlock branches that have got little pine cones on them. If you can't find some stuff like this, you can definitely check out garden centers and flower shops. They tend to have some beautiful branches around Christmas time, and moss as well that you can use, even pine cones. I got these flocked Christmas ornaments from the thrift store. Aren't they beautiful? I think they're just gorgeous for a piece like this. Tucking them in here and there for a beautiful Christmassy look. And I had them all previously laid out before, and I couldn't remember what I had decided to do. So it just took a moment to think. I'm like, okay, where did I have these placed? Anyways, I am now adding my frosted pine cones. You can see the difference between the 2 pine cones there. I'm mixing up the frosted and the unfrosted, unsugared and sugared pine cones, just tucking them in here and there. With pieces like this, I like to add my large elements first, and then if you want to add some smaller bits, you can go right ahead. I decided to add some fairy lights. I wasn't going to, but I know several of you love the look of fairy lights and pieces like this. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go for it, tuck those in. Again, just winding them in around here and there, adding layers, creating depth. And The fairy lights sure add a magical little twinkle. I think it does look really, really pretty. If you decide that you don't want the fairy lights, then you can just turn it off, or you just don't need to add them at all. I have decided I'm going to use some real evergreens for this piece. This is a pine bough that I'm just trimming down. Now, the key to this is that if you're going to use fresh greenery, I would only do this for, say, a party and you wanted to decorate, or say you want it for Christmas time, then I do it the week before. It's not going to last. These are going to dry out because there is no water source. But to keep it fresh longer, you can mist it in water and keep it in a cool place. And the thing is, like inside, we've got our furnaces going, so I find that it's very drying. So you could create this using some fresh floral foam. If you do decide to do that, you want to make sure you use, point all your branches in towards the center of the foam to create a nice uniform look. You can see here, I'm just adding some pieces of some hemlock. A hemlock is a beautiful evergreen and it's got tiny little pine cones. It's really fun to use. But of course, like I said, go to the garden center, go to the flower shop, find whatever you can get your hands on. So I'm just going to continue to add the greenery, and then you can put it on display. I love how this turned out. I actually do this quite often in the Christmas season. And when you're tired of it, you can change it out. You can definitely use some faux greenery instead if you do not want to use the fresh. I'm using some branches again. I already trimmed them down to size. I'm using a knife and I'm working on a craft mat, as you can see me doing here. It's going to collect my mess. I'm being very, very careful here with my knife, and I'm going to peel back some of the bark to reveal the wood underneath. Now, Nancy, one of my regular viewers and commenters, had requested that I do some wood burning, and I'm like, you know what? I can fit that into this video. So Nancy, this is for you. Let's just scrape back some of that bark, revealed some of the branch that's underneath the raw wood. I've got two different types of branches here. As I started to work on this particular branch, I discovered that the bark was peeling off. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to remove that bark. That's just part of working with nature. You just never know what's going to happen sometimes. So I'm just going to continue to remove the layers off to reveal the raw wood underneath. You can definitely use this technique on, say, with some wood dowels or some different wood pieces, but I just wanted that natural look, so I'm going to be using these branches. So I've decided I'm going to add some beautiful Christmas carol words. I'm writing "O Holy Night" in pencil. And if you don't like what you've done, then you can just erase it with a white eraser and try again. I'm now going to be using my wood burning tool, and I am using the round pointed tip. Make sure you've got a hot plate for your tool. Now I'm going to go over my pencil lines with my wood burning tool. I'm not a professional here. This is only the second or third time I've done this, and I admit I struggled a little bit, but still it's such a fun technique to do. So I just continued to work and just tried to keep my hand steady the best I could. So I went with "O Holy Night," other beautiful Christmas carols, or I thought the names of Jesus would be really pretty, especially for the Advent season. Here you can see I've got a pencil line, so I just erased that with white eraser, and that worked well. And then I did do Emmanuel on this one, and I put it a little bit too low, so I'm just going in very carefully with my knife again and removing some of that bark just so it looks a little bit more balanced. I'm loving how these look so far. Now I'm going to add some dyed hemp cord, but you can use jute twine, you can use yarn, you can even use baker's twine, but I love the look of these hemp cord that I got from my local dollar store. I'm wrapping it around on one end, leaving a long tail, and then I'm going to be tying it with a simple knot. Next, I'm going to be just kind of pulling on the string, creating a hanger, and then I'm going to wrap it on the opposite side, just like you see me doing here. Again, cutting it off, leaving a nice long tail, and I'm going to tie another simple knot. And then I've got a nice little hanger, and it's giving it a little bit of color as well. You can decorate these with some little greenery, pieces of greenery, or some bells, berries, flowers, little mini pine cones, anything really, but I decided to keep mine really simple. So if it's not hanging straight, you can just twist those strings until it starts to hang properly so it's facing the front, and then you can put these on a Christmas tree. I have created a couple of others, and I've got other colors of this cording as well, and I just added them accordingly. I love how they came out. They actually look gorgeous on the tree. For this project, I have this cone. I had stained it with some walnut gel stain, and this actually was intended for a previous project, but it didn't turn out. So in this next clip, you're going to see a pile of fabric on the table that I didn't end up using for this project, but I just wanted to show you how I created the tree trunk. I added some hot glue to the base of this wood stem, and I glued it to the bottom of the foam, and then I had a nice tree trunk. I'm using this white pine cone again, but I'm snipping off all the little pieces off of the cone. If you know the names of those little pieces on a pine cone, please let me know. I can't remember offhand, but anyways, I'm going to cut those all off. I am using my wire snips. You can use some scissors. I'll show you that here in a moment. But I did find out as I was doing this, the little bit of sap that was remaining ended up gumming up my wire snips a bit, so just be aware of that. Here I'm trying out my scissors. They're just a junky pair of scissors, and it did the trick as well. You're going to actually need quite a few of these pieces as we're going to be gluing them onto the cone. I'm just trimming off the top part just to trim it off a little bit, makes it a little easier for me to apply them. I tried to apply the glue to the foam cone first, and I didn't quite like how that worked, so I decided to add the glue directly onto the pine cone piece and then glue them onto the cone. You do want to overlap the pieces, and as you can see, I am starting off with the large pieces first, and then I'm going to be working my way up to the smaller pieces. This project does take a little while, so you're going to want to pop in a Christmas movie or watch some other videos and just take your time and enjoy the process. It is actually a really fun craft. I enjoyed this. I am going to make some more because I want to use them on display for my Christmas decor. So I'm just going to continue to layer them. You can see I am working on the next row, and you're just going to continue to work your way up. You want to offset them a little bit, and you don't want the white to show from the cone that's underneath. So I'm just going to continue to work on this piece, and I will let you know what to do next once we get towards the tip. So I'm near the top now, and I am just rounding off some of these pieces. I just found that they were a little bit too bulky for the top. I wanted to create a bit more of a point, and I thought by trimming them down a little bit, that will help to create that look. As you can see, as I'm getting to the top, I am gathering the pieces to more of a point towards the tip. So for the base, I decided I'm going to coat it with some burnt umber paint. You can fill in the base with some more pinecone pieces if you'd like, but I'm just kind of cheating here a little, and I'm just going to use my brown paint to paint that. You could also fill it in with moss. I thought that would be effective as well, or you can just leave it plain. So I'm just going to allow that paint to dry. You're probably going to need 2 to 3 coats. Next, I'm using another wood slice to create a base. I'm adding my hot glue, putting that into the middle of the wood base, and then it's ready to put on display. I got this round fillable ball from Dollarama here in Canada. I don't know if Dollar Tree has these or not. If you know, drop a comment down in the comment section. I'm filling it up with some natural elements. Every once in a while, you're going to want to flip it over to check what it looks like on the other side as well. I've got pine cones, some birch bark, some little branches, and some faux evergreen. You could fill this up with real evergreens as well. They will dry, but like some little pieces of cedar would work actually quite well. So I'm just going to continue to add some little pine cones. I've got a mix of some fir pine cones as well as these little hemlock. I have also foraged some cedar pine cones and they work really well too. So I'm just adding a few more pieces of some evergreen. I'm going to close this up, give it a little shake. I'm being gentle with how much I shake just to see how everything is looking. I'm not fully happy with how it looks at the front here, so I'm going to add just a few more pieces, and I decided to remove that larger pine cone and add some smaller ones to the top. You can fill these with, again, some berries, and some little jingle bells would be kind of fun too, and some florals. So I'm happy with how that looks. So next I decided to use my faux snow again. I wanted just to, again, create a bit more of a wintry scene. So I'm just gonna scatter that around, and then I'm gonna close it up, give it a shake so that snow kind of gets to the bottom a little bit more. And I am loving how that looks. Now, one thing I have to say is there were some little sticky tabs that were holding this piece together, and I should have kept them. I didn't. So I found some clear tape, and I'm going to use just a little piece of that, and I'm going to attach that to the bottom, and that's going to help hold this together. You can glue this together if you'd like, but I wanted to be able to take mine apart and reuse it. I'm using some jute twine, and I'm stringing it through the hole that's provided, and tying a knot. This will help to keep this bauble together as well. Tying it tight, tying the two ends together to create my hanger. And then you can decorate the top as well. I've decided that I'm just going to create a simple, basic loopy bow, and I'm going to add some extra tails as well because I want just a little fun little touch to add to the top of the ornament. I'm using some floral wire. This is some paper covered floral wire. I'm having a really hard time finding this again. I need to find out where I got it and get some more because I'm down to my last piece. Anyways, I just added the wire to hold my bow into place, and then you want to snip the wire, just press it down a little bit, and then I'm going to add some hot glue and add it to the top of the ornament. You can definitely add some other elements like I had mentioned before, but I like the simplicity of this, and it will look gorgeous on a woodland nature inspired tree. Here's another video that's packed full of some nature inspiration for your Christmas decor. Let me know your favorite project by dropping me a comment down below, and we shall see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.